Thomas Jefferson, who then wrote, "Our liberty depends on a freedom of the press, and if limited, it is doomed to fail." Over 2 centuries after, I'm pleased that the TLN is joining the institutions around the world who are ready to defend this freedom. From addressing the issues of legal framework assistance to the protection of journalists, to support of the independent journalism often challenged by the autocratic rules, to addressing the phenomena of a cancel culture, fake news, role of social media in disseminating news, ramifications of these in a digital age. We intend to address these in an upcoming conference, 2 days conference, our inaugural conference that will be held at the US Congress and here at the National Press Club. We're also constantly vigilant of a need to preserve and be vigilant of these freedoms here in the United States and in the other democracies that are committed to these freedoms. And so I'm very happy that at the TLN we have TLN Media Fellows, and I'm thrilled that tonight with us is Peter Roth and Sean Waterman from Newsweek, Klaus-Dieter Frankenberger, former Foreign Affairs editor of Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, sort of, and Elizabeth Motet of the Telegraph, who flew in from Paris to be with us. I was supposed to be also Doug Sanders, who unfortunately just 2 days ago sent a letter from Canada. He works for Globe and Mail, but was called to cover the funeral of Her Majesty the Queen in London, so he's not with us tonight. And a warm welcome to the Prime Minister of Montenegro, His Excellency Dritan Abazovic, the Deputy Defense Minister who just spoke of Ukraine. We're honored to have you with us, indeed, as we stand strongly with the people of Ukraine. Member of Parliament from Lebanon, Nimet Frem, and Madam Diana Riba Giner, the Member of European Parliament from Barcelona. Thank you for being with us tonight. And last but not least, since we have a little bit longer program and then reception after, last but not least, my great gratitude to the Press Club. This is the second time we organize this event with these great people. And like in December last year, I have to say, impeccable team. It's a great pleasure and honor to be part of this group here. And I'm really grateful to Jen Judson for a president of the Press Club for being with us every step of the way, regardless whether there's her child breaking a jar and having some rush into the ER or running to a defense news or running into a conference. Jen was always with us when we needed a good friend and advice. So without further ado, I'll be back at the award ceremony. I welcome on the stage Jen Judson, President of Press Club.
Hello, Sasha was referring to my 2-year-old receiving 3 stitches on Monday. Cracked his chin. On behalf of the National Press Club, it is a pleasure to welcome you to the Transatlantic Leadership Network's second Freedom of the Media Awards ceremony. Last December, my colleague, then club president Lisa Matthews, addressed this same event together with AP executive editor Julie Pace, who delivered a keynote address. Now the TLN honors in its second year distinguished journalists and media organizations standing as a beacon of light in fighting corruption, holding governments accountable, and defending freedom of expression and freedom of speech. We also come together to remember those who gave their lives in standing up for these very same ideals. Julie last year noted that organizations like the Transatlantic Leadership Network and the National Press Club play a vital role in promoting press freedoms around the world and help to protect our rights as journalists. I want to underscore that mission's importance, particularly at a time when media is confronted with growing mistrust and reporters continue to face imprisonment, violence, and murder. Political leaders across the world attempt to silence the press, echoing the words of authoritarian strongmen and their supporters. They accuse reporters of spreading fake news, even while they themselves pursue malicious social media disinformation campaigns and intentionally undermine the public's trust in fact-based journalism. This is a phenomenon not unique to the West. It is prevalent in countries from Eastern Europe and Russia to the Middle East and Asia. It is a dangerous development that we must continue to confront in a concerted and compelling way. Journalism at its best provides a bridge between the people and the truth and offers a voice for the voiceless. The world needs a legitimate press to hold the powerful accountable. I'm encouraged that the Transatlantic Leadership Network has taken this bold initiative to educate and support these crucial pillars of freedom and democracy in giving a voice to those defending the rule of law and protecting journalists. And now I'll pass it back over to Dan Hamilton. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Jen. We're so privileged to be here in your house. As she said, media at its best really does so much for us. It enlightens us. It makes sense of our world. Perhaps most importantly, it casts a light. And that is what I think we want to honor here today, those who do that and those who uphold the freedom of the media. One of the key institutions in Europe that does that is the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Broad institution that's committed to uphold the Helsinki Principles of 1975, the Charter of Paris of 1990, and many other documents that governments from Vancouver to Vladivostok have signed. And to show them their own words and say, do you still commit to these principles? And the OSCE has created a number of years ago a representative for freedom of the media. And that institution within the organization does a whole lot of activity across the whole OSCE space, which includes North America. So we have been in touch with them, and they would like to send us a greeting from Vienna to us today based on this principle. And then following that video, I'm just going to transition, and we're going to have some welcoming words by Yolanda Lopez, who's the acting director of the Voice of America here in the United States. She's truly emblematic of transatlantic leadership because she's a native of Barcelona, and yet she runs a premier U.S. agency. So when the video is done, the words, then Yolanda can come and join us. So let's run that video.
It's my pleasure to address this year's awardees of the Freedom of the Media Award, initiated by the Transatlantic Leadership Network. In times where journalism is coming under increasing pressure, when misinformation and fake news are flooding the information space, and with distrust and polarization rising both within and between our societies, media freedom and quality journalism are more crucial than ever. I therefore commend the Transatlantic Leadership Network for establishing this Freedom of the Media Award. It is a very important and timely initiative to recognize the outstanding work of journalists from all around the world for their strong commitment to high-quality journalism. I know very well that it's hard and sometimes even dangerous work. I want to congratulate for receiving this year's awards Jennifer Griffin, Olga Rudenko, Maria Ressa, Jeliko Ivanovic, Vladislav Davidson, and Shirin Abu Akleh, who was killed in action in May this year, paying the highest price for doing her work. Your professionalism and journalistic ethos are truly inspirational. With your incredible work and outstanding courage, you have positively impacted the media space in your respective societies and beyond. You have held the ones in power accountable. You have promoted transparency, and you have set an example, inspiring others to follow your lead. Defending media freedom is not an easy undertaking. It requires determination and commitment. It requires willpower. It requires courage, especially in these times when attacks against journalists are on the rise. Threats and online harassment are spreading fast, and perpetrators are rarely brought to justice. It is unacceptable that impunity for attacks against journalists continues to be the norm. I would like to draw special attention to journalists reporting from context of armed conflict or investigating organized crime, corruption, or governmental wrongdoings, as they are particularly exposed to high risks for their personal safety and integrity. The organization I'm representing, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and the Transatlantic Leadership Network, we have a common focus to shape transatlantic relations. At the core of the OSCE are dialogue and cooperation between 57 participating states, from Vancouver to Vladivostok, in pursuit of security based on principles of democracy and the rule of law, with a strong emphasis on human rights at the core of common security. Unfortunately, these fundamental principles have come under increasing and unprecedented pressure and are being grossly violated. This is also true for the media freedom situation across the OSCE region. 25 years ago, the participating states established the mandate I hold, the OSCE representative on freedom of the media. They deem this is important then, but these days it seems more important than ever. We are facing an unprecedented clampdown on media freedom, with journalism coming under increasing pressure from authoritarian leadership. We are dealing with new levels of disinformation, propaganda, and censorship, for which there is no easy or quick fix. At the same time, the media ecosystem has changed drastically, with new opportunities, but also new challenges, including a near monopoly of the online media sphere by big tech companies, rampant online harassment, especially of women journalists, and the erosion of the journalistic business model. Let me assure you that I'll be supporting you as much as I can, promoting media freedom and the safety of journalists across the OSCE region, with all the means and tools at my disposal. And I will continue to build alliances and partnerships with journalists and media workers, civil society organizations, and academia that share the same goals. Together, we must counter these negative trends. Together, we must defend media freedom. This is our common endeavor.
Hello. I would like to start by thanking Sasha Toporich and the Transatlantic Leadership Network for launching this Press Freedom Initiative. There is no other initiative quite like this, combining the concern for a free press with your policy work. I would also like to thank Jen and the National Press Club for hosting this award ceremony. We are here celebrating freedom of the media and journalists who have faced down danger. One even paid the ultimate price. We need the free media to play important roles in their countries, which is difficult to impossible if journalists are not kept safe. Back in May, I participated at the UNESCO World Press Freedom Day conference in Uruguay. And there, I shared my experience and Voice of America's experience dealing with the last days of August 2021, after the Taliban seized control of Kabul. Remember those days? We also saw the images. People desperately running on the airport tarmac. Mothers handing young children over the razor wire fence at the airport. As some ran for their lives, journalists were pouring in, including one tenacious Voice of America journalist who insisted on covering the aftermath of the fall of Kabul. Everyone around us advised me not to let her go. It is not safe. She's going to be a target. But this journalist kept saying, we have to be there. If not us, who is going to tell the story? And because of journalists like her, we have seen the dramatic images at the airport, and we have captured the desperation of the Afghan people. This reporter put her life in danger, but she was lucky. She was able to safely leave Afghanistan and share her stories. The same cannot be said for the hundreds of local journalists who were silenced for good. Local stringers who for years had been telling their country's story could no longer safely go to work. Many left with an uncertain future, leaving family and country behind, not knowing if they will ever come back. Afghanistan is just an example. Now we are living a similar situation in Ukraine. Every day, journalists over the world are challenged, threatened, and targeted. Every day, the safety of our journalists is compromised one way or another. At Voice of America, our mission is to report the news in countries where there is no freedom of the press in their own language, 48 of them, to provide a voice to the voiceless. That's what we have been doing for 80 years. But in those 8 decades, the environment for media has gone through unprecedented change. We, as news organizations, can only do so much. Establishing safety protocols and protecting our journalists is certainly something we can do, but we cannot control some of the hostile rhetoric targeting journalists around the world. How can we protect journalists if governments worldwide are targeting their work every single day? When they are threatening them physically, mentally, and taking away their means of earning a living as a journalist by forcing news organizations to close. We need everybody to pitch in as our journalists face these kind of threats. In the meantime, disinformation, false cries of fake news, and propaganda are spreading, not only drowning out independent voices, but viciously attacking the voices of minorities. Still, we keep reporting. But we need everybody's help. We need everyone in all levels of our societies to believe that what we do is worthwhile, that is worth protecting. Today, journalists are attacked from all directions by powerful interests, by organized crime, by unfair rulings and laws, by a hateful narrative against our work. Many in this room and those speaking at next week's conference have suffered attacks at home. We hope the awards tonight for the journalists who are at risk will call out those officials and governments who threaten their work. Remember the images we got from Afghanistan, the ones that we are getting now from Ukraine, the stories from other countries like Iran, Mexico. Like my reporter told me, we have to tell the story. If we don't do it, who is going to? And that's what is at stake. We have to tell those stories. Jennifer Griffin, Olga Rudenko, Shireen Abu, Maria Reza, Shelko Ivanovich, and Vladislav Davidson, I thank you for your work. Despite threats and danger, you and journalists like you around the world continue the commitment to report the facts and tell those stories. We need everybody's help to allow you to do that safely. And I'm going to end saying something that I keep saying over and over again in all my speeches and my public engagements. If we think that a free press truly is one of the pillars of a free society, and that is critical for a robust democracy, then protecting our journalists to help them do their jobs is everybody's responsibility. Thank you.
What happened in August was not preordained. It was not set in the stars. We made a series of decisions that took us to that point in August. The basic decision was the decision to withdraw completely from Afghanistan.
Are you comfortable that enough vetting is being done here before these evacuees are brought to the U.S.?
I am. I mean, I talked to the Customs and Border Patrol.
Were they targeting you? Were they targeting the U.S. delegation?
Hard to know what they were targeting.
When we walked up this beach, every 10 yards or so, we found another body. This woman wasn't covered up when we got here. She looked like she had been bathing by the sea. She had a bikini on. They've just wrapped her up. They're taking her away. But there are still bodies here 2 days after the wave struck. You're talking about a matter of a few hundred yards, Shep. Just over here is a civilian population, and we saw cars in the street. Normally it's been a ghost town here, so it is surprising, but again, they are going to be going into the shelters now.
That really takes me back, and we describe this in the book, that period of time up on the Lebanon border in the summer of 2006. The only way we both were up there on the border at the same time. I would sleep during the day and he would sleep at night, and we were on this constant rotation of telling the story. But the only way we got the kids to stay at home is we left Malcolm James, our cameraman's golden retriever dog, with them, so they didn't mind that we were gone. But it's stressful, and it's stressful for an individual, and it's stressful for couples.
This young man from Borodyanka, Peter Rybka, told me he was hooded and beaten and held by Russian soldiers for 3 days before they let him go in the middle of the night.
It was more like a torture experience.
A word about our colleagues Pierre, Sasha, and Ben Hall tonight. The loss and pain we feel is enormous, but if ever there were a time that the world needed journalists, reporters risking their lives to tell these stories, to tell the truth, it's now. Without a free press, the autocrats win. We will redouble our efforts to honor these colleagues and all reporters in harm's way tonight.
How do you feel as we're leaving Iraq?
Well, you feel like you've been part of history.
How have you been? I know we have a little time, and I'd love to hear whatever you want to tell us.
Oh, Shep, thank you for asking. And I must say, my Fox family, I've been on the verge of tears all day because I've had so many warm wishes from everyone there, and I must thank everyone. It's very emotional for me to be back. Now you're going to get me all teared up. But basically, Shep, I'm well.
And the Oscar goes to the 2022 TLN Freedom of the Media Gold Medal for Public Service is awarded to Jennifer Griffin of Fox News for her outstanding commitment to the high standards of journalism, including her advocacy and support for U.S. veterans through numerous organizations and events. Jennifer is an American journalist who works as the chief national security correspondent at the Pentagon for Fox News. Griffin graduated from Harvard University in 1992, receiving a BA in Government Affairs. Prior to working at the Pentagon, Griffin started her career reporting for the Sowetan newspaper in Johannesburg, South Africa, covering Nelson Mandela's prison release and South Africa transition from apartheid. She then lived in Islamabad, reporting on the rise of Taliban in Pakistan and Afghanistan, before moving to Moscow in 1996, where she reported for 3 years on the end of the Boris Yeltsin era and the rise of Vladimir Putin. In 1999, Jennifer became a Jerusalem-based correspondent for 7 years, providing coverage of the Second Palestinian Intifada, suicide bombings, military incursions, and failed peace deals. In 2000, she provided on-site coverage of Israel's withdrawal from Lebanon, its withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, and Yasser Arafat's funeral. In 2005, Griffin conducted a rare interview with the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ariel Sharon, before he lapsed into coma. Griffin later co-authored with her husband, NPR correspondent Greg Meyer, This Burning Land, Lessons from the Front Lines of the Transformed Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Since 2007, Griffin was reported daily from the Pentagon, where she questions senior military leaders, travels to war zone with the Joint Chiefs and Secretaries of Defense, and reports on all aspects of the military. Since 2010, Griffin has hosted the Henry Jackson Foundation for the Advancement of Military Medicine's Heroes of Military Medicine's Awards. For the past decade, Griffin has also hosted the Wounded Warrior Experience, which features stories from wounded veterans and service members. She's a member of the board of directors of the Prevent Cancer Foundation and an advisory board member for Report for America, an effort by the Ground Truths Project to save local journalism. It is beyond word pleasure to bestow the award to Jennifer Griffin, and I'll call Deborah Kagan, our distinguished fellow, to do the honor. Deborah, Jennifer.
Thank you. Before I turn the podium over to Jennifer, there was someone who really wanted to be here tonight, but he answers to a higher power, and President Biden had asked the National Security Council's Director of Strategic Communications, John Kirby, to accompany him to London for the Queen's funeral, so he could not be here. But he asked me to please read this note that he would have to you had he been here, and I'm going to give you your own copy here. I deeply regret that I cannot be here in person to congratulate Jen for winning this prestigious award. A gold medal for public service certainly seems an appropriate way to recognize her talents and contributions. For more than 30 years, Jen has brought home to the American people and to people around the world, quite frankly, the conflicts, the controversies, and the struggles that have defined the modern age. From her gritty reporting out of Gaza and the West Bank to downtown Baghdad, and from Kabul to Kandahar, and 1,000 other places in between, Jen makes real that which is hard to imagine, that makes accessible which is hard to understand, and she makes human which is hard to personalize. She tells stories, the kind of stories you know when you're finished watching that you needed to know. The kinds of stories that make you think a little bit differently and perhaps a little bit more deeply. And she is relentless in the pursuit of those stories. She once said, "I don't give up," when covering the trials and tribulations of Afghan refugees. It's the same thing she told me years ago when covering the surge in Iraq, airstrikes in Libya, the attack in Benghazi, the mission to take down bin Laden, and the courage and scourge of women who have been victims of sexual assault in the military. Yes, Jen and I go back quite a way. We've been on opposite sides of the notebook for many historic events. And believe you me, when I looked out upon the briefing room and saw Jen sitting there right up front, that same notebook in hand, I knew I needed to be ready. Her questions would be fair and they would be tough, but for sure. But they were also exactly the right questions to be asking in the moment. Jen has this admirable, but rather annoying, way of getting people like me to say things we don't want to say. That's what it means to be a good reporter. But this same doggedness also makes her a good person. I don't give up, as she said again, when she got the most dreadful of diagnoses. It's what she says when the trolls and the armchair analysts try to pick apart her work or her words. And it's what she said to me when she called to ask for help getting a wounded colleague, Ben Hall, safely out of Ukraine. And she did get him out. It was a team effort, to be sure, but Ben is alive and doing well today in no small measure to Jen's determination. Like a pit bull on a poodle was the way one person described how fearlessly she fought for Ben's evacuation. Jennifer Griffin can be a pit bull, all right, but she is the most rare of professionals today from any walk of life. Incredibly good at what she does and incredibly humble about how she does it. Is there another body of reporting out there that better demonstrates the public good that journalism can do? I don't know of it. And if there is another reporter who better typifies honesty, integrity, compassion, and skill, I don't know of her or him. Jen, knowing you the way I do, you will be loath to take credit for this award. You will thank everyone who has supported you in the booth, in the field, and in the home. And you will be right, of course. No one succeeds alone. But I hope you take a moment to reflect on the millions of people you have informed, the policies and decisions your reporting has shaped, and the powerful example of grace and courage you have set for all of us. Audiences trust you. Aspiring reporters want to be you. Your colleagues respect you, and your competitors want you to take a vacation. Frankly, so do us government people. Please, dear God, take one. I'm begging you. I'm also begging you not to squander the opportunity tonight to be proud of yourself. I know I speak for a lot of other people in and out of government when I say that I certainly am. So until the next time we face off, congratulations and go get him, John Kirby. Oh my God.
Thank you very much. My goodness, that was surprising. Oh my gosh.
So it is my honor to present you with this award.
Oh, thank you.
It's very heavy.
It's very heavy. This is very, wow.
One more time.
This is incredible. What an honor.
The podium is yours.
Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, that was very unexpected. John Kirby and I do go way back, and it's very surprising to hear from him, but I have a story about him that's maybe a little surprising. It might surprise my husband, because my son, Luke Myrie, is here tonight. He is 13 years old. John Kirby and I were in the Korengal Valley getting off of a Black Hawk helicopter when he was working for Admiral Mullen, and I was feeling a little woozy, and I realized at that moment that I was pregnant, that I had morning sickness, and I turned to John and I said, I think I'm pregnant. And so John knew I was pregnant with my son Luke, who's here tonight, before my husband Greg did. But that's the kind of bonding experience that happens when you cover these kind of conflicts, and the kind of human experience of going through what we do when we tell these stories. It's been the honor of a lifetime to be a journalist. And when I heard tonight that I was going to receive this recognition with Olga and Vlad and Željko and, of course, Shireen, I was really taken aback. I wake up every morning and read Olga and the Kyiv Independent. I have done so ever since February 24th. She is really out there risking her life and the life of her staff to tell the story of our lifetime right now. The other, Shireen, 25 years ago, we covered the Israeli-Palestinian conflict side by side. I was devastated to learn that she had been killed in Jenin earlier this year. But these are extraordinary journalists. I've just gotten to know Željko from Montenegro, a very special country that is really fighting against the kind of disinformation that Putin is and Russia and Russian bots are trying to put into our ecosystem. And it's been a pleasure to meet the Prime Minister of Montenegro, who's here tonight, and of course the Deputy Defense Minister. What your country is doing is truly an honor to be able to cover, because it is really it's extraordinary, and it's an extraordinary human story, but it's also very important in terms of the arc of history. I realized that journalism was extremely dangerous when I was a young journalist living in Moscow in 1998, and at that time I didn't quite realize how dangerous it could be, and that people could lose their lives as a result of covering stories. And I remember there was a independent journalist in a place called Kalmykia, part of it was a Russian territory, and we went down, my producer and I went down for Fox News to interview Larisa Yudina, who was a firebrand. She was the only independent journalist in this area holding to account this post-Soviet government and this terrible leader, Kirsan Ilyumzhinov, who was really an autocrat at heart. And we went to interview her. We escaped our minder and sneaked out to go meet with her. And 2 days after we got back to Moscow, the FSB showed up. They dragged her out of the house. She was killed, stabbed brutally in front of her children, and her body thrown into a pond. It took my breath away. I still think of it. It was 25 years ago. I feel guilty for it. It's the kind of risk that journalists take, and I feel extremely lucky to have been on this journey. I started this journey with my husband, Greg Myrie, who is a fantastic journalist. He's he's been my mentor through all these years, because he was an AP reporter in South Africa when apartheid was ending, and I was a student who had showed up to work at the Sowetan newspaper in Soweto. And we knew very early on how dangerous things were. He now works for NPR, but he was working for AP at the time. And I followed him to Islamabad, Pakistan. And the reason we went to Islamabad is his AP bureau chief, Sharon Herbaugh, had been killed in Afghanistan in a helicopter crash traveling with the Mujahideen. It's a dangerous business, no doubt. And I look around at my colleagues. This has been my colleagues from Fox News, this has been an extremely difficult year for Fox and our Fox colleagues, because, as Sasha mentioned, 3 of our beloved colleagues, Pierre Shishkovsky, Sasha Kushnova, and Benjamin Hall, were hit by a shell on March 14th, a Russian shell in just outside of Kyiv, and Pierre and Sasha lost their lives, and Benjamin was catastrophically wounded, but and it was a very dangerous time because the Russians were still in Kyiv, and so this was an active war zone, and getting them home was not easy. And Benjamin is now doing very well. Thanks to John Kirby and the Defense Department and our wonderful military medicine system. He was brought from Landstuhl to Brooke Army Medical Center, but he's now home with his family in London, where he should be. He is upbeat. He's ready to get back to reporting. He wants to go back to Ukraine and cover the conflict. He's learning to walk on his new prosthetics, and he will be back reporting. That's the kind of grit that journalists who cover conflicts have, and I have such admiration for Ben, and I'm so happy to see him doing well. But I just want to say thank you very much for being here, and my mom's here tonight. Thank you, Mom. You sent me on this journey a long time ago. My colleagues from Fox, Lucas Tomlinson, he went to Ukraine and was there when the war broke out. He went in on February 3rd. He was my wingman at the Pentagon for a number of years, and now he's our White House correspondent for us and doing great work. Liz Frieden, my producer at the Pentagon, I couldn't exist each day without her. She is so young, so bright, so talented. And James Levinson, also from Fox, was in Lviv during some of the hardest days of the war. Brian Boughton, my bureau chief, thank you very much for the support you give to us. And we will keep telling the truth. And it's a very, very dangerous time, not only in this world, but also in Washington, D.C. And we will hold people to account. And the best way to fight disinformation is with facts and truth. And the media, that is why the media is so very important. So I will treasure this award. I don't accept it, but I do accept it on behalf of Olga and Vlad and all those who've lost their lives. Shireen, we remember Jamal Khashoggi, all of those who have lost their lives. We remember Austin Tice, who is still in captivity tonight. It's a dangerous business, but we have to keep doing it because it is the only way to prevent autocrats from controlling the narrative. Thank you very much.
So the TLN Gold Medal for Investigative Reporting is awarded to Olga Rudenko for her outstanding courage in defending freedom of expression in Ukraine, her efforts to promote reliable reporting on Russia's war in Ukraine, and her continued work in exposing corruption and injustice. She is the chief editor of the Kyiv Independent, an award-winning media startup launched in November 2021 by the former editorial team of the Kyiv Post. In 2011, Olga began working for the Kyiv Post newspaper, covering international conflicts, including the 2014 Russian invasion and conflict in the Donbas region of Ukraine. In 2016, she was promoted to the post of national editor, and by 2017, she had become the deputy to the newspaper's editor-in-chief. Her work has been published not only in her own outlet, but in a number of major Western news outlets as well. And while she was a fellow at the Chicago Booth School of Business in 2021, she came together with her colleagues to develop an independent news outlet, the Kyiv Independent, and was chosen to be its editor-in-chief. And while she was in Chicago, many of her colleagues at the Kyiv Post were dismissed by the newspaper's proprietor because they refused to work with a newly appointed editor who ensured the paper wrote articles less critical of the Ukrainian government. In May 2022, Time magazine named Olga Rudenko as one of the next generation leaders and featured her on the cover of its May double issue. And while speaking for the magazine about the evolution of news reporting as the further Russian invasion of Ukraine unraveled, she said, "It felt like we were defending the essence of journalism." Olga can't be with us here tonight, but we're very happy that the CEO of the Kyiv Independent, Irina Shevchenko, can be here with us and will receive the award on Olga's behalf. Irina. Very heavy. We keep saying it's very heavy, which it is.
Oh my God. And now I'm thinking how I'll be bringing that to Ukraine. It's like 3 trains, 5 flights, and thank you so much for having me today. And Olga just messaged me, just tell them that I'm not accepting it on my behalf. I can only accept it on, on my team's behalf, because that's the team effort. Olga is a very humble person and one of the most skillful editors I know. She edits the publication in the foreign language. You know, those who are editors of you may understand that it is quite a challenge. But she's also a great newsroom leader. But more than that, for us, people often ask us, what do this award mean to you at this time? And we often say that it is an honor to be recognized among the fellow media professionals, but it's more than that. Every time we get an award, it's yet another chance to keep the world's eyes on Ukraine and make Ukraine's voice heard. And as the war fatigue settles in, we understand how people are getting tired of the horror pictures coming from Ukraine. Just last night, I spent all night looking through the news from Izum and how they dig out the mass graves. We do advance and we do have victories on the front line, but it comes at a very high price. And it's, as it goes, I understand how a lot of people want just to enjoy their Aperol in peace somewhere in Washington or, in New York. And that's okay, that's natural. But if you turn away, that means we'll be paying even a higher price, and we can't have that. So, while accepting this award on behalf of the Kyiv Independent, but also all the Ukrainian journalists, I want to ask you to keep reporting on Ukraine, to keep talking about Ukraine, but probably even more than that. I know that for decades you've been investing in Moscow bureaus, and you have been looking at Ukraine and at the region through the Moscow eyes. But it's time to change that as well. It's time to invest in Kyiv bureaus.
and it's time to see Ukraine for what Ukraine is. If all the people who talk now about Ukraine knew the context of Ukraine and Ukraine's history, you would never assume that Ukraine or Kyiv would fall in 3 days. But you did. So that for us as journalists and for all of us, it's an indication that something went wrong and we have to change something. So thank you for this award. It is an honor. But also, please, do keep reporting on Ukraine. And, you know, if you need more context, do refer to the Kyiv Independent. We report for you every day. Thank you so much.
So the TLN Freedom of the Media Award for International Reporting is awarded posthumously to Shireen Abu Akleh from Al Jazeera Arabic for her outstanding courage and professionalism in bringing news from the Israeli-occupied Palestinian territories, and for the way she inspired many others, particularly women, to pursue careers in journalism. Ms. Abu Akleh was a Palestinian-American journalist who worked as a reporter for Al Jazeera for 25 years and was one of the most prominent names across the Middle East for her decades of reporting in the Israeli-occupied Palestinian territories. In 1997, she began working as a journalist for Al Jazeera as one of their first field correspondents. She worked in East Jerusalem, reporting on major events related to Palestine, including the Second Intifada, the Battle of Jenin in 2002, and various Israeli operations in the Gaza Strip. Ms. Abu Akleh's career inspired many other Palestinians and Arabs to become journalists. The New York Times and NPR described her as, quote, a household name, unquote, among Palestinians. The Times of Israel characterized her as, quote, a veteran journalist, unquote, and, quote, among Arab media's most prominent figures, unquote. The BBC described her as being widely known and admired by both viewers and colleagues. On May 31st, 2022, this year, the UN announced the renaming of their annual training program to the Shireen Abu Akleh Training Program for Palestinian broadcasters and journalists. On Shireen Abu Akleh's stead, in her honor, we're pleased to have Abdul Rahim Fukara with us to accept the award as the head of Al Jazeera here in the United States, who was here with us last year as well. Please, Abdul.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, first of all, for the National Press Club. They have been a platform for similar events for many, many different platforms for a long time, including for Shireen Abu Akleh. Special thanks to TNL, obviously, goes without saying. Special thanks to Sasha. I know that you've been very consummate in your efforts to highlight the plight of journalists, and I know that you've covered a lot of miles in order to be able to help organize this particular event. I am honored to receive this honor for Shireen Abu Akleh. I'm also very sad that it's me who's receiving the award for her rather than herself. I wish she was still alive with us to receive it herself. But the importance of this event and many events that have taken place in recent months, and many events which I hope will also take place in the future, the importance of them, I cannot overstate it. The killing of journalists and the issue of impunity is obviously something that we need to continue consummately and doggedly highlighting. We need to continue to put it up in front on the radar of everybody, but particularly the radar of the makers and shakers in various capitals, but in particular, this capital here, Washington, D.C. We are obviously lucky that despite the trials and tribulations of the media in the United States, press freedom continues to be a very important value in this country. And I hope that 4 months after the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh, that there will be justice for Shireen at some point. I know that the network, Al Jazeera network, is definitely determined to continue chasing justice for Shireen. I know that Shireen's family will not tire of chasing justice for Shireen, and I hope that events like this one will continue to spur lawmakers in Congress, but also the US government to do what's needed, not just to keep helping journalists do their work, but also to step in and shine a light of pressure to bring about justice when justice is needed to be brought about. In this particular case, the case of Shireen Abu Akleh, we all hope that the US government will do what it needs to do to hold those or that soldier in the Israeli army who killed Shireen Abu Akleh. Just wanted to remind everybody that Al Jazeera's position has always been, right from the start, that Shireen was deliberately targeted, and the investigations conducted by CNN, AP, and other news outlets have gone in the same direction as to who should be held accountable and what happened to Shireen. Once again, without me saying much more, thank you so much, Sasha. Thank you so much, TNL, and thank you so much, the National Press Club.
Maria Ressa won the Nobel Peace Prize last year for her brave commitments to free expression, human dignity, and democratic government. She carries the torch of press freedom, and not just for her native Philippines. Along with her fellow Nobel awardee, Dmitry Muratov of Russia, she represents, in the words of the Nobel Committee, all journalists who stand up for free expression in a world in which democracy and freedom of the press face increasingly adverse conditions. Maria co-founded the news site Rappler in 2012. Fearless and spunky, Rappler uses the web and social media to reach out to a millennial audience. In 2016, Rodrigo Duterte was elected president of the Philippines, promising to wipe out drug-related crime. It will be bloody, he warned. The funeral parlors will be packed. He kept his promise. Thousands have been killed, many among them the poorest in society. In awarding her the Peace Prize, the Nobel Committee cited Rappler's groundbreaking work on Duterte's murderous anti-drug campaign. The number of deaths is so high, the committee said, that the campaign resembles a war waged against the country's own population. Ressa and Rappler also documented how social media is being used to spread fake news, harass opponents, and manipulate public discourse. Maria and Rappler have been sued multiple times. Last year, Maria was convicted for cyber libel, a criminal offense in the Philippines. She appealed, and in July, the appeals court affirmed her conviction. In addition, she faces up to 10 years in prison for a tax evasion charge filed in 2019. She is currently out on bail. Last June, just days before President Duterte left office, a government body ordered Rappler to shut down for allegedly violating the ban on foreign media ownership. That order, too, is currently being appealed. Despite all these, Maria and her team continue to report fearlessly. They are a shining example of principled resistance to the erosion of democratic norms. By awarding Maria the Peace Prize, the Nobel Committee recognized the importance of free, independent, and fact-based journalism in protecting against the abuse of power, lies, and propaganda. Maria Ressa is on the front line of the global battle against lies and disinformation. Despite all the threats and intimidation, she has held the line.
Brief note, Maria is in New York at the UN General Assembly. She has been appointed to a special commission that deals with the internet issues and the fake news media. So anyway, she's not with us today, but we will be with her shortly.
VST, the first independent daily newspaper in Montenegro. Over the last 25 years, Montenegro has seen unprecedented changes, an extraordinary series of dramatic events and tectonic shifts that have completely altered the face of the country. The daily VST was founded on the anti-war ideals, ideals of independent and free Montenegro, ideals of open society, human rights, and above all, democracy.
Stoga su vijesti u stalnom sukobu sa crnogorskom, džeferdarskom političkom kulturom i gospodarskim mentalitetom koji karakteriše crnogorsko društvo stoljećima. Ni najnovija politička klasa se nije odrekla te tradicije.